Dhaka Art Summit is a platform for non-commercial art, and it works as a festival, as a pop-up museum.
This is an exhibition that feels super alive.
Dhaka Art Summit is a free event and open for all. Everybody's invited.
People from all over are coming together to experience something that's joyful and locally rooted and accessible and fun, and something that you look forward to every year like a ritual.
This year, it's our 6th edition. We have a lot of talk programs, films, performances, workshops.
An event with 160 plus participants from all over the world. The theme of the 2023 Dhaka Art Summit is Bonna.
Bonna is the name of a little girl. In Bengali, it means something positive to us, but in English, when you translate it, it means flood.
You wouldn't name your child earthquake or forest fire. This means that flood is not only a bad thing. Floods are much more nuanced in how they're understood in Bangladesh, and they carry positive qualities. And we wanted to use this word to be an entry point for people to think about Bangladesh in a different way, as a place of possibility, as a place where joy and hope can rise from a place of disaster. This has been a 10-year process of getting to know Bangladesh and all of its nuances and understand it more closely, more deeply, and more expansively as well. So when I first visited Bangladesh, what most people would talk to me about were floods. They would think that this was a place that was constantly flooded, a place of constant disaster, and it's kind of a stereotype. But in Bangladesh, life is amphibious. Right? It's also interesting that the song that Rabindranath Tagore wrote for New Year's calls upon a storm to wash away the dirt and the bad things of the year before. Why would people call on a storm? Why would people call this on? But life is about balance, and Bangladesh's culture would not be what it is if the climate and water levels were the same every day, every hour of the year. It's a place where these seasonal cycles with water influence culture and how it's expressed. So when I read an article in the BBC about Bangladesh being a place where girls are named Flood, suddenly all these conversations and stereotypes began to make sense and started to take on a poetic form. So while I'm the chief curator of the Dhaka Art Summit, I'm not the only curator. I don't want the summit to only reflect my points of view. There's so many different points of view, and I also love to think with others. So I'm always joined by a curatorial team that come with their own backgrounds, their own expertise. Dr. Sean Anderson has curated architecture at the Museum of Modern Art, and he's also been to Bangladesh many times, and he curated a beautiful exhibition about the architecture of refugee camps that really moved me. And I thought that with the kind of Rohingya crisis here in Cox's Bazar, it would be wonderful to have him join the team, which yielded in this beautiful exhibition to Enter the Sky.
This exhibition is an exploration of architecture and art and the spatial politics of today, past, present, and future. I began this exploration and investigation of architectures that not only respond to, but could reimagine the ways in which architecture, the built environment, is a space of resilience, a space of hope, a space of potential for many, many individuals, not only across Bangladesh and Dhaka, but in fact the world. When I began the project, I was looking, in fact, though, at the ways in which architecture and art have thought about, in fact, weather. Weather is an interesting phenomenon. Weather is all around us. We, in effect, create weather as much as the weather creates us. So, with that in mind, I started to think about all the different ways in which weather affects us and returned to a term that had always been of interest to me and a force that had been of interest to me, which is turbulence. Turbulence, then, as an invisible force, is something that is happening on the ground, in the air, and in our waters. So turbulence, and perhaps an architecture of turbulence, is the biggest question of this exhibition. Is there an architecture that can withstand or resist turbulence? The exhibition then begins with a series of artworks. All of these works are spatial in nature, and they connote ideas about the sky, about the air in which we are breathing, and about the water that is constantly changing and shifting the landscape of Bangladesh in particular. And these are two tapestries made by Rohingya peoples as part of the Rohingya Cultural Memory Center in Cox's Bazar. These two tapestries show two very different worlds in which acts of turbulence are acting upon the Rohingya peoples. To enter the sky, on one hand, requires or demands turbulence, these transformations that are happening everywhere around us, but we can also imagine the possibility of not escaping them, but responding to these conditions in positive, unique, and innovative ways.
Akansha Rastogi, who is the senior curator of the Kiran Nader Museum of Art, spearheaded a program at her museum called Young Artists of Our Times. And we thought it would be great to collaborate with them, especially at a time where tensions are high between India and Bangladesh. How could we make a traveling show that spoke to young artists that could move past these political barriers, but also help people relate to each other in a more kind and loving way? And that's what led to Very Small Feelings. Vishwajit Goswami has a wonderful art foundation here called Brihata, and he created an exhibition that's kind of reflective of the Bangladesh art scene. So it's inclusive of senior artists and emerging artists and all different kinds of mediums, and looking at that duality found in the word Bonna.
আমরা কিন্তু আসলে ডুয়ালিটির মধ্যে বিলং করি। ঢাকা আর্ট সামিটে যে পুরো ইভেন্টটা দেখছি, এটার টাইটেল হচ্ছে বন্যা। তো বন্যাও তো একটা ডুয়ালিটি, যে বন্যা কি ফ্লাড, আমার প্রকৃতিতে ঘটে যাওয়ার যে ন্যাচারাল ক্যালামিটি, নাকি বন্যা এই সেই মহিলা যার নামও কিন্তু বন্যা হতে পারে। তো এই যে আমাদের জীবনে ঘাত প্রতিঘাত এবং আমরা যে বিলং করি আমাদের ওই দ্বৈততার প্রক্রিয়াটাকে এই প্রজেক্টে আমরা তুলে ধরার চেষ্টা করেছি। এই প্রদর্শনীতে যখন একজন আসবে, আমরা চাই যে এই প্রদর্শনী থেকে সে যেন আশা নিয়ে বের হতে পারে। মানে আশাটা কিন্তু অনেক বেশি ইম্পর্টেন্ট। তো এই আশাটাকে কিভাবে বাঁচিয়ে রাখা যায়, তো এই পুরো প্রক্রিয়াটাই কিন্তু এখানে আমরা নিয়ে এসেছি, যে প্রক্রিয়ার ভেতরে ৩৯ জন শিল্পী কিভাবে এই পুরো জিনিসটাকে সুন্দরভাবে ফুটিয়ে তুলতে পারে, এবং কিউরেটিয়াল অ্যাসপেক্ট থেকে এরকমভাবে আমরা পুরো জিনিসটাকে রিসার্চ করে এটাকে বের করে আনার চেষ্টা করেছি। প্রত্যেকটা শিল্পী কিন্তু এখানে আশার কথা বলছে, সে যেটা ক্ষয়ে চলে যাচ্ছে সেখান থেকে কীভাবে বেঁচে থাকা যায়, আশা নিয়ে সামনের দিকে এগোনো যায়, সেই ব্যাপারটাই কিন্তু এখানে প্রত্যেকটা শিল্পীর কাজের ভেতর দিয়ে আমরা বের করার চেষ্টা করেছি।
And of course, I'm joined by my incredible team, Ruxmini, Swaylin, and Sajjad, who are involved in every aspect of the curation and also of the execution and how the exhibition comes to life with our team of 106 art mediators.
Like the Lord Vishnu, you have to take your...
So this is not possible to do as one person. It's a constant form of togetherness. I think that's also something that makes the summit really special, that it doesn't feel hierarchical. Anyone can talk to anyone. We're all trying to make joint decisions, and sometimes I like to make parallels with a band or with an orchestra, right? Each person plays their part, but together it makes it something that's very resonant and that sticks with you. And I guess it's just that me and my fellow curators and my colleagues, we all really love what we do. So that line between art and life is really thin, right? So you'll also see upstairs, there's a section called Purposeful Goods, where there's artists that have social businesses that are trying to make life a better place. This gallery is inspired by this line that I've used in text, which is that storms have eyes and eyes have storms. And if you look in this room, it's black and white, so it's like you're inside a storm cloud. One of my favorite artworks is an artist named Luca Saruda, who is also a friend. And I asked him, have you ever made cyclones before, when I was thinking about the Dhaka Art Summit? And he said yes, but he had never exhibited them. So this is the first time that he's exhibiting a cyclone painting. So if you look really close when you zoom in, he's scratched into all these layers of paint, and you see this funnel that's kind of emerging out of a landscape. And there's so much power in this small painting. The format is small, but it's expansive. And another work I love, which is over there, which informs that idea of storms having eyes and eyes having storms, is a work by the Bangladeshi printmaker Shafuddin Ahmed. It's called The Cry. And you have these forms of fish, or forms of storms, or forms of tears, all swirling together in a print. And it's likening that pain of the 1971 Liberation War. So there's also a wonderful video work in here by Nabil Ahmed, who has been in many Dhaka Art Summits, which is called Radical Meteorology. And it talks about how people predicting cyclones in the south can actually feel the cyclones in their bodies before they come. So what is that relationship between the weather outside and the weather inside? So a lot of these works are deeply psychological, such as Aisha Sultana's beautiful breath count series, where she's marking her breathing every day. And breathing in Bangladesh and in all of South Asia is becoming increasingly difficult with toxicity. So places like Bangladesh emit very little in terms of carbon emissions, but they really bear the brunt of the consequences of the carbon emissions of other countries. And that's why, for us, it was really important to make children visible in this show, because it's these children that we're answerable to when we make our decisions for how we want to leave this planet behind.
A lot of schools from all over Dhaka come for their field trip. We got a beautiful letter from a school today saying that, how Dhaka Art Summit is one of the best education platforms for younger audiences. We focus on young children because they are our next curators, our next artists, our next patrons, architects, and going to be our supporters.
Dhaka Art Summit was started in 2012 as a project of the Samdani Art Foundation, a foundation started in 2011 by Nadia and Rajiv Samdani.
When Rajiv and I first started was that in our country we don't have any contemporary art museum. We wanted to create something, we wanted to create a platform for our artists.
Rather than send a few works of Bangladeshi art abroad to be lost in a sea of other contexts, when many people had never been to Bangladesh, they wanted to create an event where the world could come to Bangladesh and understand the world differently from their experience here.
in our country where we would work as a platform where Bangladesh would be connected to the world and the world would be connected to Bangladesh. So we work as a bridge. I think Samdani Art Award is one of my favorite parts of Dhaka Art Summit because that is our future, the future of Bangladeshi art. Samdani Art Award is a section where we have an open call for younger artists, anyone and everyone to apply. And then of course it's shortlisted and it's curated.
This time we have Anne Barlow from Tate St. Ives who's curating the Samdani Art Award. He has worked with a lot of artists that are kind of well known around the world today, but at early stages in their practice. She's a very nurturing, caring, and good at commission sort of curator. She did a wonderful job with our Samdani Art Award.
We have together this beautiful exhibition and we have an international jury panel. The winner gets a residency at the Delfina Foundation. It's a very, very important, life-changing experience for them to have a residency in a foundation in UK. Every time our Samdani Art Award is very interesting and the juries have a hard time to decide on one particular award winner. So this time was a unique case. This time we have two winners. One is going to the Delfina Foundation and the other winner is going to a foundation for a residency in Ghana.
আমার এই কাজটা মূলত সুন্দরবন নিয়ে। আমরা জানি সুন্দরবনকে 18 ভাটির দেশ বলা হয়। এই নামটার সাথে মিল রেখে আমি আমার প্রজেক্টের নাম দিয়েছি 18 ভাটির কথা, যেখানে 18টা ছবি থাকবে। এই ছবিগুলোতে আমি সুন্দরবনের 16টা বিলুপ্তপ্রায় প্রাণীকে উপস্থাপন করেছি। তাদের ফিগারে আমি কোনো কালার ইউজ করিনি, যেটা প্রতীকী ভাষায় প্রকাশ করছে তারা বিলুপ্ত হয়ে যাচ্ছে। সুন্দরবন যদি হারিয়ে যায়, একটা সময় এই প্রাণ বৈচিত্র্য এবং এই সংস্কৃতি, এই মানুষগুলোর জীবিকা সবকিছু একসঙ্গে হারিয়ে যাবে, যে কারণে আমি এই বিষয়গুলোকে আমার কাজের মাধ্যমে উপস্থাপন করেছি।
আমার কাজে আমি সেই সকল ব্রিজগুলোকে এনেছি যে ব্রিজগুলো 20-25 বছর আগে হয়েছিল, তবে পরবর্তীতে সংযোগ সড়ক তৈরি হয়নি, অথবা কোনো ব্রিজে সংযোগ সড়ক তৈরি হলো শুধু মাটি দিয়ে দেওয়া হয়েছিল, যেগুলো 1 বছর পরে যখন বর্ষার সময় তখন ভেঙে যায়। পরবর্তীতে সেই ব্রিজগুলো আর কখনোই কাজে আসেনি। আমার ব্রিজের ছবিগুলো একসাথে যখন হয় তখনই আসলে একটা প্রশ্ন তৈরি করে যে আসলে কেন, কার জন্য এই ব্রিজগুলো এবং কেন বানানো হয়েছিল। একজন তরুণ শিল্পী হিসেবে আমি মনে করি ঢাকা আর্ট সামিটের মতো একটি বড় প্ল্যাটফর্মে আমার কাজ দেখানো এবং দর্শকদের সাথে আমার কাজের পরিচয় করানো আমার জন্য বড় একটি সুযোগ। এখানে নানান পেশার লোকজন আসে এবং দেশ বিদেশের নানান মাধ্যমে কাজ করে তেমন শিল্পীরা আসে, কিউরেটররা আসে, গবেষক, শিক্ষক, ছাত্র, সবার কাছে আমি মনে করি আমার কাজটার সাথে পরিচয় করানোর একটি সুযোগ এবং আমার কাজের সাথে দর্শকদের একটা যোগাযোগ তৈরি করে এবং সেই যোগাযোগের মাধ্যমে আমার কাজটার পরিপূর্ণতা পায়।
Every culture has a flood myth, yet we're all still here to talk about it. That means that there must have been some hope and resilience along the way. And this edition, Bonna, is an entry point. I think when everyone leaves Bangladesh, they're going to think about everything else they see in a different lens. Do floods need to be disasters? Should the world be the same temperature at every time of night or day? Who across the other side of the world might you be touching with your decisions? And how do we tell a story of crisis while facilitating hope?
I think we're motivated by people, the crowd. I mean, of course, the Samdani Art Foundation organizes this event, but it's no longer our event. It's an event that the country owns, the whole of Bangladesh owns, and you can see it by the response we get from people and the crowds. They're incredible. It is something what we really need, and I think this is the biggest motivation.
What makes me so happy is almost everyone I see in this exhibition is smiling. There's a flood of joy, there's a flood of emotion. So an artist told me last night that when the art world comes to Bangladesh, they become people again. This is a place where the people and that interaction between artworks which are created by people and people who are moved by them is what makes this so very special.